start to finish.
You look back in this game when you talked about it, it wasn't about beautiful goal. I mean, the last goal was very nice, but it wasn't about the beautiful goals, the beautiful plays. It was a hard-fought hockey game. Hits, blocks, defense. I mean, this game is defensively driven the whole entire time. 3-2 against a Lightning team that has an abundance of offensive talent. You got a Columbus Blue Jackets team. Seth Jones I think he played over a game of ice time in this one. You look back and you look at the defense for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I know Werenski played a ton of minutes. He's actually he led the NHL in goals for a defenseman with 20.
Yep.
Again, it's just through the defense, just especially the penalty kill. And obviously we were doing the show, the penalty kill in overtime, so I was watching over my shoulder. But you just look at it, in the fifth overtime period, you still have guys throwing their body, getting away in the passing lanes. Just the effort. I mean, this is what they expected in NHL playoffs. You're supposed to get the best of the best, and maybe people thought, well, this is a weird year. You're not going to see what you might see like an all-star game type thing where it's going to be offense. No, these guys came to win, and they're going to do whatever they have to do. I know early in the game, Savard got into it with Yanni Gordon in front of the net, bloody. Right? That was what, 3 hours ago? 4 hours ago? He's probably already got a scab.
I mean, it feels like Pierre-Luc Dubois scored the first goal of this game last year. I mean, that's how long this matchup was. And unreal to watch, first of all. Second of all, I'm tired watching it. I know if you follow Stefan on Twitter, he tweeted out that he was exhausted watching this game. And I feel like for us fans watching it, you're like, how are these guys doing it? And they're running on straight fumes and adrenaline. And now the Tampa Bay Lightning win this game, and they don't feel tired anymore. They're ecstatic. And then you got the other side, the Columbus Blue Jackets go off the ice like, why did I just spend over 100 minutes of my life playing a game that I just lost, and now I have to come back in less than 48 hours and do it all again? So it's just the grind of the playoffs. And we could, before you talk first, and then we'll go talk about the Calgary Flames game quickly.
I think with the loss, it's different when like you're getting paid a lot, so it sort of gives you another reason to go. Like when we lost, it was my birthday, and I was like, well, this day can't get any worse. It's not like I have millions of dollars going, oh, actually, no, I'm going to go out and do it again the next night. I don't really care. I mean, obviously, these guys care a lot. I'm poking fun at it. But it was just, I mean, earlier in the game, you saw the physicality. You saw it not even fighting. Like, you just scrums in front of the net. The biggest thing what I saw early on in this game when I was watching was the amount of bodies in front. But not even that. It was the goaltenders adjusting. You saw Korpisalo early in this game making saves outside of his crease, tracking it, controlling his rebounds. Now, as the game went on, the rebound control struggled, but you expect that because, I mean, it's not like these goalies didn't face any shots this whole entire game. They had to battle, and they had battled through. Even Vasilevsky, though, the screens in front, he's making blocker saves where he's spreading out to make these saves. I caught Vasilevsky, I'm not even going to make this up. It was in one of the overtime periods. I think it was the first one. He's looking up at the ceiling. He's looking up at whoever he prays to. He's looking up going, all right, hopefully this ends soon. And as a goalie, in these moments, your mindset can't be, well, I can't let this, like, I can't F up. Like, obviously, they're not thinking like that. They're thinking, all right, next save. That's the only way you're going to stay confident there because it is demoralizing when you see your team go out there. Let's say you're Vasilevsky, right? And Columbus kills that penalty off. You're like, oh, my. If I'm Vasilevsky, you're like, guys, come on, just score. As a goalie, when I watch my team playing shootouts and it's, let's say we're shooting second and it's, we score, we win, it's over. And you're watching, you're just going, all right, just score, please score. And they miss. You're like, oh God, now I got to make another save. I mean, again, we're not in the mindset of them. We don't know. They're professionals. They do this for a living. And I just think that, thank God this isn't a back-to-back. Now, I don't know what the league would have done if this team had to come back around and play tomorrow. I mean, it's a playoff schedule for a reason. They would only move the games if they couldn't play. For example, the Boston game, which gets moved to tomorrow because overlapping with the TV. But it's very curious to know if they had a back-to-back, if this was a game 2 or a game 3 and they had to do a back-to-back, if this game would be played.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a question that might have gotten raised if that situation was prevalent, but luckily it's not, and the schedule stays the same except for the Carolina-Boston game. But quickly going to the other hockey game that was played today, where the only people that probably watched it were those who had to cover it or fans of the Calgary Flames and Dallas Stars. Calgary wound up taking it 3-2, like we said before the break. Dylan Dubé, the star of this game by a mile, had 2 goals. His second goal was a gorgeous goal, and somebody you don't expect from Calgary when you think about the names on that roster to be the guy that's going to contribute. But like we said, playoff hockey. It's the depth scorers that have to do it, and this guy Dubé came through today huge. And Khudobin played well. Talbot had a couple of iffy saves and iffy goals allowed, but winds up getting the win. And Calgary it looks like this could be one of the series in the West that I see there being an upset, just because Dallas has so much trouble scoring goals. I think they scored, 4 in the qualifying round, and the 3 of them came in a 5-minute span. So not a lot of goals coming from that offensive team, and especially with Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, you think they would be able to score. Just not the case for them.
Well, Seguin didn't play in the last round-robin game, unfit to play, whatever that means at this point. Yep. But you look back at Calgary, and you talk about some hero that just stepped up, and Dubé, his last goal was just filled. That's a Kucherov type of goal, or a Crosby. That's not what you're seeing from that kind of guy, and he stepped up. But one of the biggest players in this game, and when I say big, I'm talking physically and the way he plays. Milan Lucic had himself a game. The first goal for Dubé, Milan Lucic made a cross-ice pass for the one-timer. Dubé goes on a knee, beats Khudobin glove side. It was a beautiful pass. It got a little tip from the defenseman and went right to Dubé's stick, but a perfect pass. This guy, Milan Lucic gets a lot of heat because he doesn't do enough. Take the opening face-off in this game. He went 68.8% in the face-off circle. He played 14-43. Let's see what other fun things he did in this game, because he had a very, very good game. 2 hits, 2 shots on goal, no penalty minutes, which is big, and he had that assist. But Milan Lucic is a guy that has the veteran leadership, has the playoff experience with the Boston Bruins, and he's bounced around and did really nothing. And now we're seeing he steps up, and his coach had faith to keep putting him out here tonight. We also saw a fight. Kachuk dropped the glove with Corey Perry, and look at Kachuk, and he's a pest. And look at Corey Perry, and he's not the same elite scorer that he used to be in this league. But he's doing it other ways to try to get the momentum because, again, we talked about the Stars don't score, which is just mind-boggling because they have their defense is very good. Very good. Heiskanen is unreal. Klingberg, they're just young, talented, fast skaters, but they know how to play the body and position themselves. And again, Khudobin played great. Bishop, unfit to play. Hopefully he returns soon for them. But I don't think it would even matter, because if you're not going to score in the playoffs, you have to play defense, which they did. They came back in this game. They were trailing 2-0. It was a 2-2 game, then 3-2. But you got to be worried if you're a Stars fan and you cover the Stars, because you hear it all the time. Seguin and Ben have to step up. And they just don't again. And in games like this, those 2 guys do have to step up. You're not going to get this. They don't have the depth.
I mean, you think about it. They went in this offseason. They added Joe Pavelski and Corey Perry. They have Hintz there. They have Heiskanen on the back end. They have Klingberg, like you mentioned. Their goaltending's good. They should have the secondary scoring.
They just don't score, is what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, this shouldn't be a problem, but it is, and it has been all year. It's not like all of a sudden they came off a 4.5-month hiatus and they're struggling to score. This has been a problem that's plagued them since the puck dropped in October. And it's something that next season they're definitely going to have to correct. I don't know what moves they make, if a coach gets fired, what happens, but we'll switch gears momentarily. You have one
thing
point.
I just want to say is, if you're not going to score, let's say a guy like Seguin, just for fun, you're not going to score. You can't go 33.3% in the faceoff dot.
No,
you just can't do that, because you got to bring something. And I mean, they showed the highlights all day of Seguin doing a toe drag move to the backhand and scoring. Now, that was the highlight of as they were setting up for this game, showing what Seguin can do. But really, the only thing we could see Seguin do is just we watch it on replays, because he doesn't do enough. And this was a guy that was traded from the Bruins for Dougie no, they got rid of Dougie Hamilton as well.
Yep.
But Seguin was moved.
I think it was Louis Eriksson.
Yes, that's exactly who it was. And people expected, they're like, oh, he's not going to be anything special. And he turned into an absolute superstar. But he hasn't played like a superstar. He has the tagline of being a superstar. Same way a guy like Taylor Hall does, even when he struggles. They're still superstar talents, Duchesne, superstar talents. But superstars show up. And we have not seen Seguin show up when it matters most. Even Ben. Ben's got to do his job as well.
Yep, and usually you have one player struggling. The problem with the Dallas Stars right now is that both of their superstar caliber players are struggling, and when they both are, that team obviously has a lot of trouble scoring goals. So now we will transition to baseball. Obviously, a lot has gone on over the last week. Less COVID-related news, which is always a positive, but But at the same time, there was a brawl between the Oakland Athletics and the Houston Astros, a brawl with quotation marks because we're obviously hockey fans. But it's the one thing that the MLB does not want to be seeing right now. And it was just a massive gathering, no masks. And I think it was the Astros hitting coach, Alex Cintrone, I believe his name is, was barking at Ramon Laureano. They started going at it. You could tell right away once Laureano turned and faced the dugout that all hell was going to break loose. It was like an Amir Garrett situation from last year, and just right at each other. I think it was somebody jumped in and took Laureano down before he got to the coach, and they all just kind of piled on top, and then they played, tickle fight after that. But not what the MLB wants, and Cintrone got a 20-game suspension, and I think Laureano got a 6-game suspension, so that's hefty.
If you watch the replay really closely, you see one of the Astros grab a garbage can and just run. I guess they didn't want any proof on that. I only saw it on a snip video on the dark web. Anyway, you look at this, and if Manfred did his job, I'm not saying this wouldn't have happened. If this is what I think Manfred should have done, I don't know if he has the basis to do this with the Players Association, anything like this. This is what I would have done. You fire the GM, you fire the coach, you fire the manager. They let them both go. Jim Crane let them both go. You suspend the players that were on the roster, the hitters. If you could prove it was the pitchers, different story. You suspend the hitters for a year. No salary, nothing, because guess what? If your coach tells you to cheat, he already lost his job. That's the biggest thing. He has no income now. He's fired. You suspend those players and make them call up players from the minors. You look at Miami, that's working them. Look at the Astros now, and they're terrible. They're not the worst team in the league, but they're clearly, the cheating really helped their output. I mean, you look back at those stats. I remember them showing them. Altuve, Springer, Correa, Gurriel, they showed their home and away stats. Their home stats over 300, away stats under 200 for some of those guys. Gurriel was the only one that stayed consistent. And Gurriel was actually only one of the people to apologize. And he said, if I remember, my memory's terrible. He said, it's terrible, Brendan. He said, what we did was wrong. Even if we didn't go along with it, we didn't do anything to stop it. And am I going to accept the apology? No, you're scum. You're scum. You cost people jobs. You think about the people that played against the Astros and got lit up. I remember there's one guy suing the MLB for millions of dollars because he got called up from the minors, played one game, came into relief against the Astros, got absolutely steamrolled, got sent back down, never played an MLB game again. And guess what? He has a right to sue. Now, Laureano got hit in this game. Was it intentional? I mean, I don't want to agree with anything the Astros do now. So let's say it was intentional, right? If you spend all those players, there's still hate against the Astros. But who are you going to hate on that team now if they're minor league players playing? It's not, they had no say in it. They have nothing. You're not going to see people, look at Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly's not hitting batters or coming close to hitting people in the head and making faces if those guys aren't in the lineup. It shows that baseball, the thing is, baseball needs those stars. Because Altuve, Springer, Correa, they're still stars in the league. But now you're seeing, without them cheating, they're not the stars that you think they were. They're not worth the money you think they were. And I think that if Manfred handled this correctly, because again, the players didn't get anything for this. The players got a clean skate, and then COVID hit, and everybody forgot about this. And that's the biggest BS I've seen because, you had a guy in charge that didn't do the right thing. And again, I'm not looking at the Players Association if they're even allowed to kick players out for a year. But more had to have been done, and that's why you would see less of this stuff happening. You would still see it, but again, who's throwing at a guy in the minors that never played a game for the Astros yet? He had no say in any of this.
Yep, 100%. And obviously this incident's not completely related to that, but you're right. The players got away pretty much scot-free, and now they can't even police themselves, which has been done by the MLB for so long because Manfred took that right away once they suspended Joe Kelly 8 games for not even hitting Correa, but throwing behind him. So it does change the whole dynamic of the season. And you could see it in Altuve's average, Bregman's average, and Springer's average that the cheating definitely helped. And granted, they could all just be struggling this year. It could be an anomaly. But
that's BS. That's BS.
Exactly. The year after you get caught cheating, you all are batting below 200. Come on. Obviously, the cheating helped. We're moving on to Zach Plesac, who was sent home by the Cleveland Indians because of COVID-related issues. 1-1 with a 1.29 ERA this year. It was his second year in the league. He's 25 years old, but they sent him home. He wasn't following policy. And actually, Mike Clevenger today came out and issued a statement apologizing for also breaking the COVID-related policies when they were in Chicago. He said my actions put my teammates and staff in jeopardy, and I was being selfish by doing the stuff I did. So he apologized. I don't know if he got sent home or what that situation was, but Plesac did, and it's just not the stuff you want to see. You haven't seen it in the NBA, you haven't seen it in the NHL, but in the MLB, it's been a big issue.
It's not what you want to see, but it has to be done. You look at there's a Cleveland Indians team that's being ridiculed, the logo, they're going through some stuff. But the fact that you're sending home a second-year stud in Zach Plesac because he didn't follow protocol, Cleveland Indians just got my respect, or whatever Cleveland baseball team, they gave my respect because, this season's not a joke for some teams. They're trying to win this thing, and the Indians are no different. And by sending a guy home like this, you're showing that, hey, this matters. And other people around the league, other teams are going to notice this and go, okay, if we don't have a guy doing the right thing, let's send them home too. Because, again, it's bigger than baseball. We talked about it on last episode. It's so much more important to stay healthy, and Zach Plesac's clearly going to learn his lesson. Not sure how long he won't be allowed back. But if you're not going to follow rules, you deserve what happens. It's the same way if a kid doesn't follow the rules, you put him in timeout, ground him, whatever you want to do. They learn from that. I guarantee Zach Plesac doesn't do it again.
Yep, 100%. And you look at the Cardinals are the last team that is kind of battling this COVID-related bug. Their series against the Pittsburgh Pirates was postponed. Hopefully this is the last one that does get canceled and that they're able to start playing baseball again so that the season schedule doesn't become completely flipped and all these 7-inning doubleheaders. I think the Marlins, because of their kind of delay, have to play 27 games in the last 23 games of the season. That's just absurd to do to the pitching staff, let alone
23.
Yep, the last 23 days of the season, they play 27 games. I think they play doubleheaders 48 hours apart. So similar to what the Yankees just did, but now on the home stretch, that's just detrimental to a team's chances of making the playoffs. We didn't think the Marlins would have a chance of making the playoffs, but they got off to a very intriguing start. Some team that also got off to an intriguing start was the New York Yankees, and not so hot recently, having split against the Philadelphia Phillies and losing 3 out of 4 to the Tampa Bay Rays. They're 4-0 when Cole's on the mound, but they're 6-6 when other people start. So a very mediocre team other than the offseason addition of Garrett Cole.
So just an update real quick. Remember when I told you Ford was having a day?
Yeah.
Well, his day just got a lot better. A double in the bottom of the 7th. Torres scores. Yankees are now up 9-4. But we'll get to good game for Ford. You love to see his bat wake up because, he's not a great defensive first baseman. He's in there for his bat. He DH'd the other day. Good to see Mike Ford. I know he got an RBI. I mean, he didn't get an RBI earlier. They scored runs off him grounding into a double play, but you'll take it.
He did. He had an RBI double early on in this game too. Yeah. So back-to-back at-bats are 2 out of 3 at-bats with an RBI double.
Well, you're just showing how crucial Cole was going to be to this Yankee team. Again, like you said, 6-6 otherwise. Paxton's got to be better. And we saw a very good Paxton on Sunday. But then he gets I think it was 3-0 when he's going in for the 7th, and he gives up a double to start the inning. Wow, my memory's pretty good. Holy crap. And then he gives up a home run. So now it's 3-2. Boone leads him in. Another home run right back. It's 3-3. They lose that game.
Yep.
So you look at it and go, okay, that's definitely a big step from Paxton from the start before that to this start. Great. Take him out. I would have, once he let off the double to start that inning, you're already in the 7th. Once you let that double, get the bullpen going. Get it the home run, you take him out. You have the bullpen. You got the strength. Paxton gave you more than enough in that game. It's a tough Rays team to play against. He gave you enough. You leave him in a little. We've seen Boone do this a little bit. We saw it happen last year. You leave him in a little too long, and this is what happens. And again, losses. I mean, they started off so hot. Now they're playing mediocre baseball, and you never know what. I mean, they're doing well tonight. This is a big game to bounce back from. You're doing well tonight. The hitting woke up, all that kind of stuff. The Rays are going to be breathing right down the Yankees' neck this whole entire season.
Yeah, and what you just said is completely true, and 100% sure was that Boone in leaving him in, which was fine because obviously Paxton was pitching a gem, best game of the season by far. And even though he gave up 3 runs and didn't get a win, it still was a great start. 6+ innings, 3 runs. You'll take that from James Paxton, especially with this offense. But like you said, once that double gets hit, you take him out. They had an off day the next day, so there's no excuse why you can't throw a bullpen. They all get a day off. And then you come to today. I think they were up 8-0. Jordan Montgomery pitching very well, 6 strong innings. leaves him out there again for the 7th. Next thing you know, it's 8-4. And it just gets to a certain point where you're looking at Boone and going, how many tough managerial decisions has he had to make so far in his career? Obviously, he's been at the helm of just completely dominant teams. It's not like the Yankees when they were the runners up in the division 2 years ago were not good. They still put up close to 100 wins. And then last year they put up 103 wins. So we're talking about over 200 wins in back-to-back seasons that Boone has. So on paper, he looks like a great manager, but all he has to do is say, all right, you guys go play baseball today. You're just more talented than every other team. And now in a shortened season, when bullpen management becomes critical to all these games, it's 2 blunders back-to-back that's happened. This game, luckily, it hasn't cost them so far because the offense showed up. But we saw the offense didn't show up in Tampa Bay against a good pitching staff, and the bullpen mismanagement really cost them. That series should have been another split, and you take a split against Tampa Bay because you're in first place, they're in second. They're still behind you the same distance. But he cost them Tampa Bay gains the game.
I just think that this Yankee team is too good bullpen-wise that if they have a lead, they need to win the game. They're going to beat teams. They're going to kill some teams. I mean, I'm not going to call a 9-4 right now, end of 7, killing them because this Braves team could still come back. You never know. But you look at it and it's like, I mean, Aaron Judge, a bomb tonight, a absolute bomb. But besides that, I mean, the hitting's got to pick up. You have Stanton, which we'll get to right now. He's out 3 to 4 weeks with a little hamstring injury. Injuries are going to happen eventually. You lose Stanton. He was batting .293, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. He's now on the shelf. They call Frazier up. Let's see how he does. Injuries are going to happen. They're going to have to persevere like they always do. Hopefully when Stanton returns, he's fine. Odds are he's not going to be, just because that's the nature of the beast with Stanton. He's just injury after injury after injury. But again, you got to win the games you're winning in. The Yankees have been very good at coming back this year, and that's kudos directly to Judge. Clutch as can be this year. And I mean, I don't know what the stat is off the top of my head, but his home runs that he hits, he's unbelievable 8th inning and later in hitting game-tying home runs or go-ahead home runs. He's clutch. Now in the playoffs, he hasn't been all that clutch, but the team struggled to hit in the playoffs over the years. But if Judge eventually slows down, some people have to step up. We saw it happen last year. Urshela stepped up, had a great year, but he hasn't hit well. I mean, Torres hasn't been doing well at all, and we can talk to that for the last minute or so before we cut to the break, and then talk about the Mets, the Mets. But you look at it, and it's who's been a bigger disappointment, Gleyber Torres or Gary Sanchez? We both agreed it's Gleyber Torres because guess what, Sanchez? I did not, and probably you as well. I didn't expect anything from him. I expected around 200, 220 batting average, hit home runs, RBIs. He'll strike out a ton of times. That's the Sanchez the Yankees are going to get. And if that's not what they're okay with, they need to move on. But Gleyber Torres, you're expecting 275 plus, 30 home runs, 90 to 95 RBIs, a great shortstop. I mean, I know he struggled in the past fielding at short. Again, he's moving back from second to short, given LeMahieu's there. But Torres has to pick it up because, like we said, Sanchez. This is Sanchez. This is not Torres.
Yeah, Gary Sanchez, you expect this from him at this point. I don't think you're ever going to see that 2016 form where he came up and just completely demolished the MLB, hitting 20 home runs in a record pace. I don't think you're ever going to see the 2017 form again, where even though he struggled at certain portions of the season, he still managed to hit 30 home runs. This guy is just – it's not like he's in a slump. He's lost. There's a difference between not being able to hit at a certain point and then you could see signs of picking it back up. He just swings at everything. If he gets 2 strikes in a count, he's swinging. It's like all of a sudden in his head he goes, the only way I'm going to get on base is if I swing at a pitch 25 feet outside. And pitchers just go, okay, here you go. We're going to throw it in the other batter's box. We know you're going to chase it. Easy out. Save my arm. It just – somebody's got to look at him and say, can you look at a pitch? Just go one at bat. Don't swing. Just try it because you might get walked. I mean, nobody throws him a strike. He just swings over it. But then Gleyber Torres, he got moved up to the 3-hole. And I said in the beginning of the year, although the move had to happen because of his numbers the last 2 years, he was so comfortable batting behind all the big names. And he just hit the ball like LeMahieu the opposite field. It transitioned to a sophomore year power surge. Now he gets moved up in the lineup. and he's trying too hard. It's almost like he knows that at 3 you have to drive the ball, and he's swinging for the fences. His hips keep turning out. He doesn't look balanced on the plate, and it's you got to bump him back down. Put him back 6th, 7th, where he was comfortable. Let him get a rhythm going. It's not like they don't have guys that could jump into that 3 hole. Luke Voigt's the perfect guy. Mike Ford, the way he's swinging at the DH spot, can do it. Let him get comfortable. Talkman if he has to. Clint Frazier if he's playing a game. Like these guys, let Torres get comfortable. But he is the bigger disappointment just because how good he is. And we know, unlike Sanchez, Torres will figure it out. This is not a guy that's going to stay in elongated slumps. He transitioned to a new position, like you said. It's taken him some time to adjust. He maybe brought that defense to his offense, and now he's struggling a little bit, but he really has to figure it out if this Yankees team wants to go far.
So he's batting 5th tonight behind Hicks. He's batting 5th tonight behind Voit, and he's 2 at-bats. He got 2 walks. He has 2 walks and a strikeout. So, I mean, that's a little better than usual. He did strike out, but right now, 9-5 game, by the way. Johan Camargo doubles in top of the 8th. So 9-5 game.
Great debut for Luis Cessa. But yeah, so obviously the Yankees are going to need that performance from Gleyber Torres to pick up, and from Gary Sanchez if it's possible. When we get back from this commercial break, we will dive into the New York Mets, who have just continued to struggle, but they do have some bright stars and some young stars, I should say, and Andres Gimenez, who we'll get into, and he's giving Ahmed Rosario a run for his money. That is when we come back on the BS Sports Show. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to the BS Sports Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the BS Sports Show. So as we were at break, the Yankees gave up 2 more runs. It's now 9-6. Luis Cessa had to get pulled from the game. And just as we were talking about, Gleyber Torres made an error at shortstop, leading to that breakout inning by the Atlanta Braves, cutting the Yankees' lead to 3. Obviously, we're going to switch to the Mets, who have their own woes, but that's just not a good sign as we kind of segued that bad inning by Gleyber Torres there.
So the Mets just lost. Their record is now 7-11. They lost the Nationals 2-1. So, I mean, that just brings more bad news. Again, 2-1's not as bad as 16 to whatever happened the other night. The 2-touchdown win, whatever it was. I don't remember the final score, actually.
Unreal.
I mean, it's when they
16-4.
16-4. Let's talk about the Mets. Mets woes continue as Marcus Stroman has opted out, battling an injury right now, calf injury, but he was taking some bullpen, so he could still pitch. But he decided that he said he has family that, they're high risk. He's going to opt out. And as much as Met fans can be angry with him, look at how he could have packed his stuff. Oh, wait, someone else on the Mets did that in Cespedes. Yeah, he just packed it up and left. So if you're a Met fan, you're pissed. You could be pissed. That's fine. He was at least respectful about it. He told the team he was hurt. It's not like he pitched bad and then he played bad and said, yeah, I'm out. Sorry, guys. He said, change your heart. Again, even if he's not doing it for COVID reasons, he's hurt. Why are you going to risk coming back in a free agent year with an injury? There's just no point. And if this is the end for Stroman as a Met, he would have only pitched 11 times, a 4-2 record, 3.77 ERA, 59.2 innings pitched, 60 Ks. And they gave up a lot for him. And if he leaves and that's it, oh my God.
Yeah, it's not what you want to see for the Mets. I mean, the last 2 years has just been marred by missed trades and signings. You talk about Jed Lowry, who's barely played. Obviously, the Edwin Diaz, Robinson Cano trade. They gave up Jared Kelenic, who looks like he's the next big thing in the MLB. And they got Cano, who was good before getting injured, but obviously is an aging player, and Edwin Diaz, who hasn't lived up to his one season there in Seattle. And now another Marcus Stroman. Obviously, the way the MLB has gone with COVID, you can't blame him. It's not like he did what Cespedes did, as you alluded to, but it's going to hurt. But the one bright spot that the Mets have is Andres Gimenez, who has come up, and he's looked really good. I think that there is no way you cannot play him on a daily basis, especially with the way they've started this season. Fielding-wise, hitting-wise, he's looked extremely comfortable, and he's only 21, so maybe they do have a little bit of a bright young star budding right before our eyes.
I mean, if he continues to play the way he's played, and we'll get to him a little later when we talk about our fan questions sent in, but he puts Ahmed Razara in a tough spot that he's either got to get better in the field or he might have to move positions. But let's look back at the Stroman trade for a second. They trade Stroman, so it comes from Toronto Blue Jays to the Mets. The Mets give up Anthony Kay and Simeon Woods Richardson. That's a number 4 and number 6 prospect. Looking, obviously, if he stays and he plays well, you're golden. It's a kid from New York, from out east, grew up a Met fan, hates the Yankees. I remember the Yankees were close to trading for him, and they did not. They didn't think he was worth it at that time. And can he stay? I mean, if you grew up, Brendan, as your Yankee fan and you got a chance to play for your Yankees, and you saw that Betances, a guy like Betances did that, and he saw the Yankees weren't going to re-sign him, so he chose to stay in New York, go with the Mets. That's a different story. But if you're Stroman, you only played 11 starts with the Mets. You're seeing them play pretty terrible this year. I mean, 7-11, it could be worse. It's not a huge, terrible record. You can bounce back from that. You got to get healthy. They have a lot of injuries. But if you're a guy like Stroman, you think he resigns or you think he decides to take his talents elsewhere?
It's tough. I take this season with a grain of salt just because obviously it's 60 games, a big delay. The Mets are also missing Noah Syndergaard. So if he does re-sign, then you have DeGrom, Syndergaard, Stroman. That's a very good 1, 2, 3. Matt's at the 4. I think that he's going to consider it. That's very, very evident that he likes playing in New York. He's been all over Twitter, very active with it. The other New York team, though, has Tanaka and Paxton that are going to be free agents. They could use a little more depth, especially after an injury with cheaper contract. And they were interested in him at the trade deadline last year, so I wonder if they make an offer. But I don't know necessarily if he doesn't want to re-sign, but I don't know if the Mets are going to offer him the money that he's going to want.
So, I mean, there's not much more to say about the Mets and the fact that this is not a lost season by any means. If you got a guy like Jimenez, you're talking about, you have young guys, try him out. Again, this is if you're going to do bad this year, do it by seeing what your prospects got. There's no minor league baseball. That's what we're seeing here. There's no minor league baseball. So the only way you're going to see if your prospects have the talent if they get games. And you're seeing Jimenez. He gets called up, 4 or 5 weeks into the season? I don't know how long the season's been. I've been in hockey mode. But
I don't think 4 weeks yet, but we're getting close. Probably at least, I think, 3 weeks in.
But you look at him, this guy's already getting called up and he's playing. And he's playing quite well. So I think that the Mets, this is not going to be a terrible year. I know the Mets marketing team and PR and fan experience, they got to do a better job because after the 16-4 loss, they send out their emails for season tickets the day after. Now, come on.
Yeah,
you just can't do that. You can't. I mean, it's like in any sport, your team gets blown out. You probably shouldn't be offering people to spend a ton of money to come back and see you play, even when you can't. You don't know where fans are going to be. So bad on the Mets. That was not good. Let's go back to hockey for a little bit. We do have Donald Rosner coming on, owner of Blue Line Deli and Bagels. That'll be around 10:30ish, and then we'll end the show with fan questions. The Islanders face the Capitals. Game 1 kicks off tomorrow at 3 p.m. I am ecstatic. Tomorrow is my 3-year anniversary. Shout out to Alyssa. 3 years. Crazy. But we're going to watch this game.
Congratulations.
We're going to watch this game for 3 hours. Mark that time off.
I don't know about 3 hours after the game we just saw
Those
today.
Weekend Golf Guys is the golf podcast for people who think golf podcasts are boring. Oh, sure, all the others are boring. We're not. You should check us out right here, 5 o'clock, Monday night. RTF Sports Network, the network of champions. You